We'll do a brief review on the sine and cosine rule before we jump into the questions. All right. So by now, everyone will have these rules in their books. You mainly reserve these rules for non-right angle triangles, like scalene triangles, isosceles triangles. You can even use it on equilateral triangles. The truth is, you could actually use these formulas on regular, boring, right-angle triangles. In fact, they work for any kind of triangles. But like I said, most people reserve these for non-right-angle triangles, even though it could work for a right-angle triangle. So just a brief refresher today. The first thing you need to remember is that the examiner is going to use capital letters for the corners. I know I mentioned this in the homework videos. Capital letters represent angles. So we have angle A, angle B, and angle C. And common letters represent the length of the sides. For example, this side here from C to B, you call him common A because he's opposite angle A. Here's capital B, so the side opposite that will be common B. And if here's capital C, the side opposite is common C. Now, when you're doing the work today, please make sure you write your capital letters significantly larger than your common letters, because capital C and common C, which represents two completely different things, could be easily mixed up, especially if your writing is not super neat. All right, so everyone should already have these formulas from the homework, but I'll be showing the formulas as we go along with the questions and whatnot. So first question, everyone draw the diagram and send your answer to 3 significant figures. Let's just keep it simple. Not everyone will know what 3 significant figures is. So let's just go to 2 decimal places. And one hint, if they ask you to find the angle ACB, it's always the middle letter they are talking about. So there's a little hint here. This is what they want you to find, the size of that particular pink angle. Get started and send your answers on the chat. Please use. Since this is a non-right angle triangle and we're trying to find a missing side, but missing angles, we're going to have to either use the hard sine rule or what I call the hard cosine rule, right? Before we decide which rule we're going to use, let's see what information they gave us. It seems that they gave us the length of how much sides? We have the length of 2 sides. One side is 9 centimeters, one side is 5 centimeters. And they gave us an angle also. But you notice one angle is opposite to one of the given sides. So you have a given side and a given angle. Both are opposite each other. Let's see which rule this would be, right? And the good news is I'll show you which formulas they give you and which formulas they don't give you in the CSEC exam. Great. So if you look at the hard sine rule, that's this rectangle here, you'll notice that you're allowed to use the hard sine rule if they give you 2 sides and the angle opposite one of the sides, which is what we just said, or if you're given 2 angles on any side. But at least condition 1 applies, right? Because we were given 2 sides and an angle opposite to one of the sides. Remember, the common letters go on top and the capital versions go underneath. I have a slight mistake over here. Anybody spotted the mistake in this formula over here? There's a mistake in this formula. Anybody wants to tell me? Right? I didn't do it intentionally, right? It's really a genuine mistake, right? I'm supposed to have capital B here, and I'm going to have to do this for the entire class now because I use the same slide for the whole class. Okay, so that is what we have so far. So we're going to use the hard sine rule, right? So we'll take that formula off, right? Go back to the question. So let me put in my common letters. Capital A, here's common A. Capital B, here's common B. capital C, this side is common C. Remember, in the homework videos, I told you that when you put down the hard sine rule, one of the letters is going to be not useful. You're going to have to throw it away. Which letter is the useless one? The A's, the C's, or the B's? Right, the A's. Let me explain why that one is useless, just since this is the first question. We have to keep the C's because they want you to find capital C and they gave you common C. So if they want you to find capital C, well, then the C is really important. You have to keep that. They seem to have given you a lot of information on the B's, capital B and common B. So we keep in the B's, but they ain't giving no information on the A's. They don't even want you to find A. So this is the formula that we're going to use. B on sine capital B is equal to C, common C, divided by sine capital C. So you just have to substitute in the letters now and cross multiply. So for those who got it wrong, try it back again further. So let's substitute in some more values now. Well, we have what? Common B is how much? Common B is 5. So let me help you out here. Common B is 5 centimeters. Sine capital B, right? Number capital B is how much? 24 degrees. So you want to put 24 here. Common C is 9, and we're trying to find capital C. That's the aim of the question. So it's sine capital C. So what we're going to have to do now is cross multiply to solve for C. Now, there are two ways we can move forward, and different teachers will show you different things. What we could do first is find sine 24 first on the calculator. I will go to 3 decimal places because whenever you're trying to work to 2 decimal places, you should do your work into 1 extra decimal place. So you could find sine 24 first on your calculator and then cross multiply, or we could just start cross multiplying one time without finding sine 24 and leave that for the end of the question. It's not going to make a big difference if we go to 3 decimal places. So help me out here. How much is sine 24 on the calculator? I would prefer today to work out sine 24 on the calculator. And if I go to 3 decimal places properly, when you press sine 24, most of you all will see 0.407. You'll have to round this 3rd decimal place off properly. We're trying to go to 3 decimal places, but our final answer will be to 2 decimal places. So let's cross multiply. Shouldn't be too hard from here. We could probably cross multiply this diagonal first. 5 multiplied by sine C is equal to 9 multiplied by 0.407. 9 multiplied by 0.407, and I'm getting roughly 3.663. We're not finished yet because we still want to solve for C. So you have to throw across the 5, which is a multiply. Throw it across, you get a divide. So we have to divide those two things now. Divided by 5. And you're going to get 0.733. If you're like, once again, I'm going to keep stressing it, right? We're going to round off properly to 3 decimal places. So it will be 0.733, not 0.732. Now we're going to throw across sine because we want to solve for angle C, and we get sine inverse 0.733. Let's see what that gives us. Second function, sine 0.733, and we're getting roughly 47.14 to 2 decimal places. Now, everybody's going to get slightly different answers because I know everybody's going to round off differently. But if you get anything roughly around 46 or 47 point something, take it as correct. Okay? So for those who got it wrong, go through the working. Let me know what was your mistake. How much of you all cross multiplied straight. Like instead of finding sine 24, you just went ahead and you cross multiplied one time. So let's see if we are going to get the same answer if we did that. Let's try that experiment and see, right? Well, we're supposed to get the same answer, right? So let's go ahead and see. So I'm going to cross multiply straight now. Now, it doesn't matter which diagonal you cross multiply first, but let me do this one here. 5, I always like, whichever letter you're trying to find, I always cross multiply that diagonal first. So let's say we have 5 multiplied by sine C, and then we say 9 multiplied by sine 24. Now you can leave it like this, right? And what some people will do, they won't work out the sine 24 still. You throw across the 5 and you get what? A divide. So you do all of that one time. So let's see what we get when we type in 9 multiplied by sine 24 divided by 5. Let's see what we get. 9 multiplied by sine 24. I press equal and then I divide by 5. And we get roughly the same thing, 0.732 or something like that. And then we throw across the sine and we get what? Sine inverse 0.732. And let's see what that gives us. Second function, sine 0.732, and we still get roughly 47 point something, 47.05 or something like that. So it's still close to 47. You won't get 43, right? So I need for everyone to double check if you did it this way. Maybe you forgot to press equal before you divided by 5. Right? The calculator does misinterpret things like that, right? Question 2. Right, draw this and they want you to find the length of AB. That's this line over here. This time we're trying to find the length formula. We're going to put in the little common letters. Here's common A, here's common C, here's common B. It seems that we have 2 angles and 1 side. Right? So this is the information they gave us. And also, one side and one angle are opposite each other, well, which is good news, okay? So which one are we going to use here? We have 2 angles. Look at here. We have 2 angles. If you read this rule here, given 2 angles on any side. So that's the condition we have. So once again, is the hard sign rule that we're going to be using. So you have to figure out which of these letters here is going to be useless, right? So if you look at it, they want you to find the side AB. Now, AB is really common C. So if they want you to find common C, well, you're keeping the C's for sure. They gave you a lot of information on the A's. You have capital A and you have common A. So once again, it seems like the B's are the useless one. So you're throwing away the B's in this one. Start. Well, we said we would throw away the B's because the B's are useless in this question. So it's A on sine capital A is equal to C on sine capital C. So we throw away the B's. So we have to what? Do what now? Substituting the values. So I have a little space here. Common A is 10.2 divided by sine A, which is 1 to the 4 degrees, is equal to common C. We're trying to find common C, but we know capital C is 28. Right? Reza, correct now. Right? Rocky, correct. And Jonathan, correct. All right. So what you need to do here, for this question, what I'll do, I'm going to find sine 1 to the 4 and sine 28. I will round off each to 3 decimal places, and then I will do what? Cross multiply, right? For those who choose to cross multiply straight without finding the values, you're supposed to get roughly the same answer. So let's see what we have here. We have 10.2. How much is sine 134? Sine 134 is 0.719 to 3 decimal places, common C, and sine 28. The 3 decimal places is 0.469. Let's cross multiply. 0.719 multiplied by C, that's this diagonal, and now the other diagonal. 10.2 multiplied by 0.469, I'm getting 4.784, right? If I round off properly. This one here, throw across the multiply, you're going to get a divide, 0.719. 4.784 divided by 0.719. Oh, we get, well, different people are going to get different things, right? Slightly different. If you do it this way, you're going to get 6.65, or if you use no rounding off and you cross multiply straight, you would have gotten 6.66. Any one of these answers, take it as correct and make sure and put your centimeters. Right? So look for your errors, right? Look for your errors. All right. So once again, just forget about the 3 significant figures. We're just going with our final answer being to 2 decimal places, right? So, but work the 3 and round off the 2 in the end. So let's look at this question. Calculate the length of GH. GH is this guy over here. If here's capital I, over here's common I. If here's capital G, common G, capital H, common H. So you're trying to find common I. Figure out whether it's the hard sine rule or the hard cosine rule. They gave us 2 angles and 1 side. Okay, so 2 angles and 1 side. It seems to me it's the cosine rule again. Look at it. Look at item 2 here. Given 2 angles and any side, meaning any one side. It seems to me it's the hard sine rule. Okay, it's not the hard cosine rule as yet. So if it's the hard sine rule, one of the letters is going to have to disappear. So it's either you're going to throw away the I's, the G's, or the H's. Now, this sine rule question had the one trick the examiner can play on you. And I discussed that one trick in the homework video. This is the only trick they can play on you. So let's see which letter you decide to throw away. Is it the G's, the H's, or the I's? People again, the C. So we said we're throwing away the G's. So the G's gone. So we're left with the I's. So it's common I over sine capital I is equal to, well, we have to keep the H's. So H over sine capital H. So let's substitute in some values, right? Right, so here's common I. Common I is what we want to find. Sine capital I, well, capital I is 26 degrees, so no problems there. We know common H is 13.5. And then you have sine capital H, angle H. But did we give you angle H? Did the examiner come out right and tell you the value of capital H? And you're going to be scratching your head and saying, no. But he kind of did, you know, right? He kind of did. Because all the angles in a triangle add up to 180. So if one angle is 73, the other one is 26. We can add these two and minus it from 180. So let's do that. 73 plus 26, and you minus it from 180, and we're going to get 81. And you can double check it. 81 plus 26 plus 73 will give you back the 180. So we know this one is 81 degrees, right? So as a little difference, what I'm going to do with this question, I am going to work it out without finding the values. I'm going to cross multiply straight. Going to cross multiply this diagonal one time. I multiply by sine 81 degrees is equal to 13.5 multiplied by sine 26. Now, let me give you all some advice, right? This may seem trivial, but it can make a big difference depending on the calculator. When you're multiplying, isn't 2 by 3 the same thing as 3 by 2? It doesn't matter how you multiply. So you might be saying, well, it's probably okay to write it like this: sine 26 multiplied by 13.5, because the order doesn't matter. But take my advice. When you're multiplying sine, tan, or cosine of an angle and you have another number, put the number first and then the sign of the angle. You see what some calculators do? It is multiply the 13.5 by the 26 first and then sign it. You don't want that to happen, right? So put the number first and then the multiply by sine, tan, or cosine, whatever, afterwards. It does make a difference on some calculators, all right? So this over here is our multiply. Throw across the multiply, we're going to get 13.5 multiplied by sine 26, and we're dividing the whole thing by sine 81 degrees. So we're going to type in that straight on the calculator. Let's see what we get. 13.5 multiplied by sine 26. I'm going to press equal. When I work out the top, I always like to press equal before I divide by the underneath. And if you do that, you'll get 5.99 or something like that. I know some people will get 6. So anything around this, right? 6 point anything will do also, right? And you have to put your meters. The x means 6.01 or 6.02. Anything around that will be correct, right? Right. But the most accurate answer you could get is 5.99, because we didn't use any rounding off till the end of the question. Right. I only saw a couple wrong answers, to be honest. Right. For those who got it wrong, you can let me know if you saw your mistake. All right, so let's see which one this one would be. Hard sine rule or hard cosine rule? Right? In this one, it's the hard sine rule again. So let's put in the common letters. Common F, common D, and common E. Right. So what's going to happen here? We're trying to find capital E, which is X. So we keep in E's. Well, whatever you're trying to find, it is the most important thing. So we keep in the E's, and they give us so much information on the F's. Let's keep it. So the person that we're going to throw away is the D's. They don't belong there. So E on sine capital E is equal to F on sine capital F. Okay? So let's substitute in the values here. Common E is 6.7, and capital E, where's capital E? Oh, that's what we're trying to find. He's angle X. Now you can put E here or X here. It doesn't really matter, right? Common F is 8.1, and the other one is sine F 97. So this one I'm going to do it different. I'm going to find the sine 97 first and then cross multiply. So I'll mix it up a little bit. So 6.7 over sine X is equal to 8.1. How much is sine 97? Sine 97 is 0. If you round it off properly to 3 decimal places, 0.99 3, not 992. If you look at it, the next number was 5. So we have to add 1. Let's cross multiply from here. Right? So you'll get sine x, well, 8.1 multiplied by sine x. And how much is 6.7? 6.7 multiplied by 0.993 is 6.653, roughly that. Go across the 8.1, which is a multiply, you're going to get what? A divide. Jordan, check it back. Look at the work in here, right? So you have to take the 6 point, divide these two. So you get sine x, 6.653 divided by 8.1, and we get 0.821 or something like that, right? But we're not finished. I think some people finishing the question here by mistake. Let me just go up here. Remember, we have sine x is equal to 0.821, but we want to find x, which means we have to throw across the sine to get what? Sine inverse. All right, so guys, a lot of people getting 4 point something. I'm not too sure why, but try it back now. When you sine inverse 0.821, right? 0.821. We're going to get roughly 55 points. The answer is closer to 55 point something. Okay. One question, it doesn't matter if you put X or E here, right? It really, because remember, angle X is angle E. So I can't see an examiner making a fuss over something so simple, right? Right? Munish, that is not correct. 15 point something. It's very far from. Right, so, well, we already figured out which rule to use. All right. Oh, one quick question, right? We just figured out that this angle was how much again? Around, let's just call it 55, right? Just to keep it very simple, right? Right. So if here's 55 degrees, I want you all to find the area of this triangle. Let's see if you remember from the videos. We're using 55 as the answer, right? So we rounded it off to 55. I would like you all to find the area of that triangle. So to find the area, right? Remember, we're using here as 55. We said that. To find the area of a triangle, one of the most popular formulas is this: a half multiplied by A multiplied by B and sine C. This formula is given on the formula sheet itself in the exam. A and B represent two sides. So side D, A and B represent the length of two sides. But C is the angle in between those two sides. The formula only works if you're given the angle in between the two sides. Now, the two lengths of sides we were given were the 8.1 and 6.7. These two sides meet over here. Did they directly give you this angle? No. So I know some of you are saying, well, I'm going to use any angle that I want. You didn't, some of you said you're going to use the 97. Some of you said you're going to use the 55. But both of those would be wrong. You need this angle and only this angle because that's the angle in between the two sides. But there's a very easy way to find an angle because all the angles in a triangle add up to 180. So add up 97, 55, add it up and minus it from 180. Then you will have the 8.1, that's the length of one of the sides. 6.7 is the other side. And I just showed you how to find capital C, the angle in between them. See if we can send the correct answer now. That's right. So the angle in between the two sides are, oops, sorry there, 28 degrees. So I'm going to type in a half multiplied by 8.1 multiplied by 6.7 multiplied by sine. You have to press the sine button, sine 28. And I'm getting 12.74, roughly that, right? So the area is 12.74 centimeters squared. Right, so every once in a while, I'm going to ask you to find the area as an additional question, right? All right, so this one here, draw it and get started. They want you to find the length of BC. So it has to be the hard cosine rule because, right, you are given, if you look at it, you have two sides and the angle in between the two sides. Two sides and the angle in between. So that's this particular formula over here. Remember, if here is common A, the last letter is match it up, but the capital version of it. All right, so let's go back and I want to show you. Look at it. We do have the two sides and the angle in between. So we have A, B, and C. So we're trying to find the length of common A. So if we're trying to find common A, we say A squared is equal to B squared plus C squared minus open brackets 2 by B by C by cosine capital A. All right. So for those who didn't realize that, right, now you have the correct formula, right? So substituting your values. And remember, when you work this out straight on your calculator, you will get A squared. Huh? We want regular boring A. So when you're finally finished, please draw across this square to get what? Square root. But do that last. So I think some of y'all forgot the square root part. Right, so finish that up. Excuse me, I just had to make one phone call while you all do it. Right. Let's plug in some values here. These are different color here. Common B is 8 squared plus 11 squared minus 2 multiplied by 8. Number common B is 8. Common C is 11 by cosine capital A, which is 52. Right. Right. So I know some of you are still working it out. You want some time? No problem. Take a few seconds. Just now. I think another mistake people are making, right? All right. So you have squared here and squared here, but inside the brackets, you do not have squared. So I think some people are mistaken that outside the brackets it have a square. So when you're typing this entire sentence straight on the calculator, 8 squared plus 11 squared minus open brackets 2 by 8 by 11 multiplied by cosine 52, and you close the brackets and press equal, you will get 76.64. So you throw across, now number is A squared. So you throw across the squared and you square root. So when you square root that, you're getting roughly 8.75 centimeters. Okay. Unless you all want an official exam, you can let me know in the chat here. If you all want an official exam, let me know, and I'll gladly prepare one and sit back and do nothing for 2 hours. All right, try this one here, guys. That's the answer. Most people say no. All right, so this one here, recorded. This one is the hard cosine rule. Why? Because they gave us the length of all 3 sides of the triangle. So you have to use this crazy looking formula, which I went through in the homework already, right? Remember, if it's capital A here, the last letter on top, this be the common version of it. All right. So Well, you all will figure it out from there. Well, most of it. Right, so putting, I'm not working it out, just give me a little jump start. Here's common A, here's common B, and here's common C, and you're trying to find what? Capital A. Right, so I just write down the formula that you'll have to use. Capital A is equal to cosine inverse. There's a big square brackets. Remember, the hard cosine rule has two versions. One to find a missing side and one to find a missing angle. The scary looking one is the one to find the missing angle, which is this one on the screen here. So it's b squared plus c squared. And the last letter, if he has capital A, over here will be the common A. And you must have a 2. And the first two letters, they slide down over here. So you get C and B. But it has no squares. Be careful with this one. Don't type in the whole thing straight on your calculator. Work out the top, write down the answer. Work out the underneath, write down the answer. Divide, and then cos inverse. Say cos inverse last. All right. So it's cos inverse. Common B is 10. So it's 10 squared plus what common C is. Common C is 12. So it's 12 squared minus common A is 15 squared. 2 common B and C are 10 and 15, right? Sorry, 10 and 12 are my mistake, right? 10 and 12. I said 15, my mistake. So what we want to do is work out the top here separately. So let's work out 10 squared plus 12 squared minus 15 squared. 10 squared plus 12 squared minus 15 squared. How much people got 19 on top? When you worked out the whole top there, I'm getting 19. That's a nice answer, right? And the underneath, you're going to get 2 by 10 by 12. So that's 240. Divide these two, right? 19 divided by 240. And when you do that, inside those scary square brackets, you're getting 0.079 or something like that, right? You should make sure you see that divided, but don't cos inverse yet. We're going to cos inverse last. So when we get this, then we do what? Press second function cosine 0.079. And we're going to get 85.47 degrees. Just to keep it simple, 85 point anything, but you must have that 85, right? Last question for the day. Last question. All right, so this one here, well, it's a nice question at the end of class here today. It's a pretty easy question. This one here, they gave you the area of the triangle, right? Right. Well, she's not easy, but sorry, it's a long question. Sorry about that. And then they want you to find the perimeter of the triangle, which means one side is missing. So once we find this missing side, the length of that side, we can do what? Find the perimeter. I'll give you a hint. Try to find this angle first. Once you get this angle, everything will fall into place. And to find this angle, you're using this formula. Remember how you find the area of a triangle? A half AB sine C, right? But this is a general formula that they give you. A and B are the two sides, and C is the angle in between, right? So you notice you have something like that, two sides, and B is the angle that is supposed to be in between two of them. So you might have to transpose to find angle B. All right. So if we use this formula, didn't the examiner give us the area? Isn't the area 10? They gave us that for the area. A half. What are the lengths of the two sides? 8.4 and 3.2. 8.4 multiplied by 3.2. And we have to multiply by sine of the angle in between. Now, the angle in between today is B. So we just changed the C to B. How much people at least had that? Like you had up to there. Like you made the substitution correct. All right, so let's work out what we have over here. We have 10. Let's multiply these three values now. A half multiplied by 8.4 multiplied by 3.2. So that should be easy to do on the calculator. And if you don't like a half, don't let it bug you. Replace it with 0.5, right? 0.5 by 8.4 multiplied by 3.2. You're going to have 13.44 multiplied by sine B. Now remember, we want to find B. So let's transpose to find B. Let's throw across Mr. 13 first. He's a multiply. Throw him across. He becomes a divide. All right, so let's divide 10 divided by 13.44. We're going to get something pretty nice, 0.44. But we're not finished because we want to find angle B. So we take Mr. Sine, throw him across. That will leave B alone on one side. And then you'll get sine inverse 0.744. Second function, sine 0.744. Yep, and you all are sending the correct answers now. 48.07 degrees. So at least now we know this angle over here. He is 48.07 degrees. Couldn't you all find this side now using the hard cosine rule? Because you have two sides and the angle in between. Look at it here. That's this formula here, the long looking one. You have two sides and the angle in between the two sides. All right? So that's the formula that you have to use. Right? But this time you're trying to find common B here, because here's capital B, so here's common B, here's common A, and here's common C. All right. Now remember, you're trying to find side B. So you have to say B squared, and the other two sides are A and C. So you put A squared plus C squared minus open brackets 2 by A by C cosine. If you have common B here, the last letter is the capital version. So how much people had the correct version of the formula? Right, so all right, so that's substituting the values. I know it's getting late, right? So you want to find B. So we have the lengths of A and C. It's on the screen here. 8.4 squared plus 3.2 squared minus open brackets 2 by 8.4 by 3.2. And how much is the angle that we worked so hard to find? 48.07. That's Mr. Capital B. Type in this straight on your calculator, and some of you all are forgetting to square root the final answer. When I work out this piece here, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm getting 48.88. But that's B squared. That's not the final answer, right? Make sure I see it on the calculator, right? When you throw across the squared, you're going to get a square root. And we get in roughly, if you go to two decimal places, you get you're getting 6.699. But if you go to 2 decimal places, you have no choice but to go put 6.70. So you know here is 6.70. Couldn't you all find the perimeter now? You just add up the length of all 3 sides. Add up 1, 2, 3. And I'm getting, for my perimeter, 18.3 centimeters, right? If you want to be fancy, you can put a 0 there, so it will look like 2 decimal places. Make sure you see it on your calculators, and that's the final answer. 18 point anything will do, because everybody's going to round off slightly different with all of this complex work in here.